Woo! College football playoff semifinals. This should be some good matchups, man. I can't wait to see what happens when these four teams step on the field. You had the Miami Hurricanes, which was disrespected coming into the playoffs, coming out of the ACC. People always want to say, "Oh, they lost to Syracuse or SMU. They lost to Louisville." Well, how about the ACC might just be a little better than people give it credit for, just because of them losing to those two teams. They were disrespected coming into the college football playoffs. And it's shown that that disrespect has not mattered, which it doesn't because the play is played on the field for a reason. But now this is the first time as the 10 seed that they're coming in as a favorite in a matchup. They opened up as 3.5 point underdogs against Texas A&M, winning the College Station. Defense, a gritty game that they won there. Then, of course, the neutral field against the defending champs, Ohio State, as 9.5 point underdogs, won that game outright. And now they opened up as 2.5 point favorites over the Ole Miss Rebels. And I think this matchup is going to be one hell of a matchup. Of course, Miami's 12-2. You have Ole Miss at 13-1. Miami's the 10 seed. Ole Miss is the 6. This is Miami's first time playing in the national championship since 2001. And I just think that, this is going to be a super explosive game because with the pass rush of Miami and Mesidor and Bain, and then, the defense, the interior line is pretty good as well. But, they're the two main guys on the outside. Lightfoot even got in last week and made some plays. But I just think that this will be a super competitive game, high stakes matchup. Both teams chasing rare historical milestones, of course, with Miami not playing in the title game since 2001. Like I mentioned, Ole Miss never been to a national title, or I'm sorry, never won a national title. And like I said, it's destined to be a great one just for those two reasons alone. But then you look at their paths to the semifinals. Of course, Miami shut down Texas A&M, came back, shut down Ohio State for the most part. The second half, Ohio State kind of got going, but again, Miami still made enough plays to win the game. So that was two very good offenses that they were able to, shut down with the defense. And then we talk about, Ole Miss slugging it out with Georgia, relying on the offense and then the chaotic QB play. Like Chandler's last week made some crazy plays. I mean, there was in the third quarter, it was 3 or 4 plays he made in a row that was just like, wow, he's a gamer, and this is a guy that was a D2 champion coming up to D1 and now is one game away from putting his team in the national championship at the D1 level when he wasn't even expected to get any burn this year. But due to the early injury to Austin Simmons, here he is, being that guy. And, as it recently was reported, if he's deemed eligible for another year with his NCAA waiver, then he will be the quarterback for Ole Miss again next year, when a lot of people thought he was going to LSU. Excuse me, but let me stay on topic, of course, with this matchup we got here. I don't think that this game will necessarily be a shootout by any means necessary because, Miami, as they've shown throughout the playoffs, they're grinding and controlling the clock. Ole Miss now, dude, they do like to have the explosive plays, get out and run, make it a shootout. But, of course, the identity, because I think Chandler's dropping back too much in this matchup can be a recipe for disaster for Ole Miss. I know I said this a few weeks ago against Ohio State, and people said I was just being a biased fan. But as you've seen, the pass rush is real. It is the best in college football. I don't give a damn what conference you rep, what conference you like. 4 and 3 on the edge are the best two in the country as a tandem. And of course, 4 is probably the best pass rusher in the country easily, which is why he'll probably be a top 10 pick this year. But nonetheless, like I said, I don't think that it'll be a super high scoring game. I expect this to probably be like a 24-17-ish type game, if I'm being honest. Now, the thing that's interesting in this matchup that we do have to speak about before I get into some other stuff with this game is the fact of Mark Fletcher is averaging 5 yards after contact in the college football playoffs, and that's going against Texas A&M and Ohio State, which is, everybody looked at as the best defense in the country. 4 or 5 first round picks on that defense. He still came out and had a hell of a performance. And now you're going into a team that Ole Miss isn't really known for their run defense. They give up, I believe it's like 1.5 or so yards before contact. So, I mean, if Mark Fletcher can come out and do anything near what he's been doing after contact, and they're giving up 1.5 to 2 yards before contact, it's going to be a long night for Ole Miss, man. And with that being said, I don't think that Miami will come out, and even if that is so dominant, that they'll score a boatload of points. But if they cannot stop the run, Miami's defense is able to cause problems for Chandless. I do think that this could be a super, super recipe for disaster for Ole Miss. Because if, like, again, obviously, if Miami can make plays on defense to get them off the field, not let them put long drives together, and Fletcher can just chop them down 4 or 5 yards a pop. When you get to the third and fourth quarter, that's going to be tough to stop. But on the other side, Lacey's a dog himself. And it's going to be interesting to see how they call the game and how they'll try to balance and negate the pass rush of Miami because, of course, you don't want to play into them hands. And as I say that, Miami's pass rush versus Ole Miss pocket protection is going to be key. Miami has 46 sacks on the season and an elite pressure rate of 40%. I mean, I don't know where that sits nationally, but that has to be somewhere right there. And of course, they have 12 sacks in 2 games, including 5 versus Ohio State. So if you want to look at the A&M game and say, okay, whatever, it's Marcel Reed. Well, then they went into Ohio State, or not into Ohio State, into a matchup versus Ohio State and had 5 as well. Ruben Dor, Mesidor, like I said, they are the disruptors. They are them guys. Out of those 12 sacks, they have 10 and a half. So good luck game planning for them. It's going to be interesting to see what they have out there. It's interesting because their sack rate, although Ole Miss is, you wouldn't look at Ole Miss as one of maybe the best O-lines in the country. They do have one of the best allow rates among sacks in the nation, which is good. So they keep Chandless pretty clean in the pocket. But when they do get to him, his mobility turns that pressure into explosive plays. And as y'all seen, Georgia was having trouble sacking him. Even when they were dropping into coverage heavy, didn't work. I mean, this is going to be a pure chess match. Miami wants to, of course, cut the game in half, fold time, collapse the pocket. Ole Miss wants to stretch the field behind the pocket. Their QB can escape and win the one-on-one battles to set the tone. So it's going to be super interesting. I can't wait to see how this game unfolds. I think it's going to be one hell of a matchup. But then Miami's rushing attack leads, 172 of 175 rushing yards. Heavy clock control. But Ole Miss, like as I was speaking about, their rush defense, 65th national, and give up 124 yards to Georgia. You can say, Georgia's run game's better than Miami's or whatever the case may be, but everything's on a game-by-game basis now. If Miami wins in the trenches, which on both sides of the ball, I don't think that there's any team, even with the whole field, I didn't think that there was any team coming in on both sides of the ball that was better because you have Francis Mauigoa on the outside at right tackle. He'll be a top 5. Definitely say top 15 pick. Ruben Bain on the other side will be a top 15 pick, probably top 10. So I thought that coming in, Miami did have probably the best trenches in the entire playoffs, and it showed to be true this far. So it'll be interesting. And of course, like I said, limit possessions, dominate the trenches, play violent, and keep Chambliss off the field. That's the key, keeping him off the field. Because like I said, Lacey as well ran for what? Well, I'm sorry, let's just say this. He had 1,400 plus yards this year and 20 plus touchdowns. Control the ground, control the clock. Miami tee up early. Ole Miss has to pass, and playing against Miami's pressure, that'll be when things get interesting. And then the style of quarterbacks is so interesting in this matchup as well because you have Chandless, deep ball threat, accurate, highly mobile. You know what I'm saying? Keeps defenses honest for sure, extends plays. So you never know when you got him bottled up if he's going to be able to get up out of there and make something happen, extends drives and shifts momentums off that. You know what I mean? As you seen last week against Georgia, he threw for 32 and 2 touchdowns with no picks, a few crazy plays. And then on the flip side of that, you have Carson Beck. He's a vet. He's won a national championship. He's efficient. He's conservative. The problem is he has to stay out his way with the turnovers. We know how he can get. But with that being said, Carson Beck has only lost 5 games in his college career. He has limited picks in big games. If you go back and look, I don't think he's really thrown many big picks in big games or many picks at all in big games. So he's been taking care of the football in this one. Never really been known as an explosive passer, but he does take those deep shots here and there just to keep the defense honest. And they showed last week, even if you double Malachi Tony, they got other guys that can win one-on-one and make plays as well to be able to keep the ball moving. They're not really looking to make them explosive plays, though, if they get them good. If not, like I said, limit the possessions for the other team, play possession football, smack you in the mouth, play violent on defense is the recipe for Miami, and that's no secret. So we'll see what happens because that's 2 different style of clashes for the quarterbacks for sure. So it's going to be interesting because I think Miami's defense is obviously better. I think we could all agree on that. Now, the problem is which defense will be able to slow down the other offense. Miami's not known to put up a lot of points, but they're known to grind the games out. Ole Miss, they probably want to be in the 35 to 40 range to be comfortable. If it's a gritty game, I'm not sure how comfortable they'll really be. But again, that doesn't mean that Miami can't come out and win a shootout, and that doesn't mean that Ole Miss can't come out and win a grinded game. You know what I'm saying? Both of these teams are playing high level football. They're in the last four for a reason. But again, I think Miami's defense is elite. I think Ole Miss's defense is good, but not elite. Miami's super good at a strong third down defense. They have a great third down defense. The turnovers, like creating them turnovers, huge. As I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the rush defense of Ole Miss, the rush defense isn't that good. It's mediocre, probably. I definitely think it's vulnerable, and playing a team that has a good O-line and a physical back that's not really looking for home run plays, it could just wear and tear on you. Um, so it's gonna be interesting to see that. We'll see. We'll see how that. Like I said, stylistically, this is a super intriguing matchup. Both defenses could definitely make plays, big plays, but Miami has more of a bend but don't break discipline. And of course, just right now, if based on the two teams, although Georgia was probably the favorite to win this to a lot of people based on the way they were playing, and Ole Miss got them out of there. I think right now, obviously, like I said, Miami defense is just a little better. Well, I'm not going to say a little better, a lot better. I mean, 12 sacks in 2 games is insane at this level when it's win or go home. So we'll see. But it's going to be the chess match at the line of scrimmage, right? Pass rush versus protection, decisive repeated battle, all game long. Pass rush versus protection. We all know that's going to be huge for Ole Miss. It's going to be huge for Miami as well. But of course, the better pass rush is in Miami. Chandler is the mobile guy. He's the one that likes to extend plays. So again, that pass rush versus protection, the chess match at the line of scrimmage is going to be huge for both teams, but more so for Ole Miss. The clock control versus the chaos. Who dictates the tempo? Again, as I mentioned, Miami looks to control the clock, keep Chandler on the bench. Ole Miss loves to play run and gun, pace, put up pressure on your defensive backs. Miami should, I think, have all their DBs back healthy this game. I know Brown is questionable, but other than that, everybody else should be out there, so that'll be good. If they have Brown, they'll be completely healthy in the secondary for the first time in weeks, months, so that'll be good. Of course, the quarterback contrasting roles, Chandler's being the creator, Beck being the controlled executor. That's perfect way to break it down. I don't really have no other way to, really describe it other than if he gets to turn the ball over, then that's a different discussion. But otherwise, a controlled executor last week. He made every play when he needed to. And even if it wasn't a touchdown, he was getting his team in position to put points on the board. Didn't turn the ball over. That's all you can ask for. And then the defense is going to be the decider. At the end of the day, that's just what it is. The defenses aren't equal. Miami's defense is elite, whether it's the eyes or stats, they're elite. And if Ole Miss wants to win, in reality, their offense will have to outscore their shortcomings. Their offense is just going to have to outscore their shortcomings, and that's just pretty much as simple as it's going to get. This game is more of an X's and O's. It's identity. Y'all seen what Mario Cristobal was saying every time he got a chance to speak into that microphone on the game last week. We're going to be disciplined and violent. Disciplined and violent. Over. So you know what it is. Miami's discipline and and lean on the defense. Ole Miss, creative, chaotic. The other one's game is going to win the game. So we'll see how it goes. Now, with all of that being said, I am a Miami fan. I will be called biased by some. That is okay. As I mentioned, this is the first time that Miami has been a favorite this entire playoffs. 3.5 dogs, 9.5 dogs, won both of those finally in the semifinals, the game before the national championship. They got us as 2.5-point favorites, and I think we're going to go in and win. I think Miami wins this game, like I said, 24-17, something along those lines. If it goes higher, if it goes lower, whatever, I think Miami wins the game. I think the defense will play strong early. Fletcher and company will gash the Ole Miss's defense up. We'll get up maybe 10 points or so. They'll start to drop back and pass a little bit. Our defense is going to make 1 or 2 super big plays in the game, and that's going to be the icing on the cake. Now, I'm not saying that it won't be a competitive game, so me saying that, don't think I'm saying, oh, this is going to happen early and it's just going to be non-competitive. I just think at some point that's just how the cookie's going to crumble, but I could be wrong. Again, I do think it'll be a very good game. Ole Miss has a lot to play for. They got chips on their shoulders right now for multiple reasons. Miami has chips on their shoulders, but at the end of the day, Miami is one game away from going back to their home stadium to play in the national championship. And college football is just better when the U's back, baby. So hopefully I'll see y'all next week with this same demeanor, but I'm going Miami Hurricanes with the win over the Ole Miss running Rebels. I'm going to call it 24-17, but somewhere in that ballpark. Either way it goes, I don't really care as long as the U gets the W. And now we're going to move on to the next matchup, which, of course, y'all know is Oregon versus Indiana. This is a super interesting matchup, of course, because